Welcome to the WEInvested Podcast, where we teach you how to save and make more cash. I'm your host, Wesley and here I have with me
Jacob Rodriguez.
And this is Season 2, Episode 1. But before we get started, I must let you know we do not offer any financial, legal, or tax advice on this show. Let's do it. Man, Season 2 already. Season 2, Episode 1. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's been a long journey, man. It's been a good journey though. Right?
Yeah, totally.
For sure, man. So today's cash quote is: the law of inflation is whatever goes up will go up some more.
Yeah. Specifically prices.
That's a very true statement.
Yeah, that's cool. That was a good one. I liked reading that one before this too.
Yeah, that was a good quote, man. I like that one. But yeah, man. So let's get into it. So what is inflation?
So I think most people think of inflation as basically what it is. I think a lot of people have an idea that things rise in prices year after year, not even year after year, but every month after month. It just kind of happens naturally. So
right, for sure, man. And inflation also weakens the dollar.
Yeah.
So it weakens your purchasing power.
Yeah, exactly. That your dollar becomes less the longer you becomes worth less the longer you hold on to it.
Right, man. And a general rule of thumb would just be every 20 years, the price of whatever you're looking to buy will double.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never even heard of that, but I guess that does make kind of sense. Yeah,
man, and it's a crazy thought, but I kind of looked up some examples to see if I could test it, to see how true it was.
Yeah.
And one example I found, which I thought was pretty interesting, and something that I can remember for sure, is that the price of 1 gallon of gasoline in the year 2000 on average was $1.51.
Yeah, totally. You hear stories from your grandparents talking about how gas was 5 cents in their day per gallon
right.
or whatever. And the reason it's not is because of inflation. Yeah.
Right, and today, what is $3.45?
It's something like that. At least, so around here, I think it is close to that. So yeah, obviously a big spike in that.
It's more than doubled in 19 years. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Some things go faster than what the average rate of inflation is. Some things go slower, and some things go in the opposite direction. So it's interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. So okay. So that's an example, but an example of something that I always think is interesting. That goes the opposite way of inflation, so gets cheaper over time, or at least historically has, is TVs, which is pretty crazy.
Man, I did not know that. I never noticed that.
Yeah, totally. If you think, and it makes sense, if you think about the price of a 50-inch TV 10 years ago, it was pretty expensive compared to what it is today. So
it was in the thousands, right?
Yeah, right. So
that's crazy.
And there's just a ton of people who have made TV and made TVs, since then, and it's become so much cheaper and so much easier to make. So it's just the price has actually gone down, which is pretty interesting.
And that's pretty cool. I never thought about that. I guess they want to keep us distracted. Man.
Yeah.
TVs cheaper,
Yeah, exactly.
Cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So it's not only is there inflation, but there are 3 different types of inflation.
Yeah.
And so we'll kind of get into these 3.
Yeah, totally.
First one is demand pull inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, means when the demand for a product or a service increases, then so does the price.
Yeah.
And if the demand for the product increases faster than the makers can produce the product, then that's what makes the price increase even more.
Yeah, exactly. And you have some examples, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. So it's it's pretty much like scarcity breeds inflation.
Yeah.
So if you have some limited edition shoes, Yeezys, Jordans, whatever, the makers can jack the price up because there's not many, they know people will pretty much spend whatever they have to get those shoes.
Yep. And then as time goes on, those probably at least those models become more and more scarce, and theoretically the price would keep on going up,
Exactly, just like old cars or whatever.
Yeah.
I know Reno is big for
Yeah.
automobile
museums
and classic cars, man. Are you into that?
Not really.
So you've never been to the automobile museum?
No, actually, I hear that's actually a really cool place to go, but I've just never gone. I'm not like a gearhead or anything like that. So it'd be like, I'd probably see like 10 cars, and I'd be like, I'm not getting anything more after that. So,
right.
Yeah. So what's the second type of inflation?
Second type of inflation we have is the cost push inflation, which means that the cost of production has increased, which causes the
overall price, the end price.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you have an example for this one too.
Right. So an example for that would be, let's just say, the price of lumber or wood was to increase.
Yep.
So for a developer or home builder or whatever, the price of the homes will have to increase because the raw materials have increased.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, depending on when you're listening to this, the trade war between the U.S. and China might still be going on or might still not be. But
right.
But yeah, the big deal with that, right, is that all the Chinese inputs go into a lot of the things that we make. Like from your iPhone, like all those parts come from China.
For sure.
So theoretically, if iPhones were being made in the U.S. or any other product, and we got the parts from China, and they cost more because we're charging a tariff, to Chinese products, then those products, would eventually rise the price of like the end product being like an iPhone or something like that. So that's what the big concern is with tariffs, is that it'll eventually trickle down to our prices being raised. So interesting.
It always hits the consumers, and that's what we don't want. We do not want any more tariffs or taxes or increase.
Yeah, and that's why it's bad for sure. It's not good for anyone for the most part.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And then the third type of inflation we have is the built-in inflation, which is defined as the future expectations of inflation.
Yeah.
So for an example, if you live in a city that's similar to Reno, and a lot of new
like developments and like
a lot of new
businesses,
developments, a lot of new businesses, a lot of new people, new residents. That can increase your cost of living.
Yeah.
More people coming in. So with the thought of your expenses increasing or your cost of living increasing, then the employees, the workers, expect for their wages to increase in proximity to the cost of living.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a inflation by expectation almost, is that we expect the prices to go up, so you get bigger paychecks, and that does make prices go up.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And so now that we've kind of talked about inflation and have a better understanding, we kind of wanted to move into saying, how can we avoid or even beat inflation?
Yeah, and it's kind of the invisible eraser of wealth, right? That like it doesn't matter if you're putting in a ton of money into your bank account and you're just letting it sit there, just based off what we talked about. Things get more expensive, so those dollars are going to be worth less and less.
For sure, man. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, man. Yeah. So how to beat inflation? Like you said, man, the people who only save, they're losing money. Yeah. Inflation kills your cash.
Yeah, it's not too fun to think about.
It's a certified cash killer.
Yeah.
So, if you don't invest your money, if you don't invest your funds, then you're losing money. You're missing out on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, thebalance.com did a study about inflation, saying that if you put $100 into a savings account in the year 2000, that by year 2018, that same $100 will only have the purchasing power of $67.
Yeah.
So it's like you're losing 2/3 of your purchasing power on your money.
Yeah, totally. And it's like one of those things that like really creeps up on you, right? Because you're probably not going to notice over your year that things get 1-2% more expensive, but if you compound that over 20 years, it makes a huge difference.
Huge difference, man. And the average annual rate of inflation is 3.22%.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going back and including the 80s. And during some times like the 80s, like inflation was like in double digits. So like your dollar was, losing, 10% of its worth every year, which that would be awful.
That would be horrible, man. So the way you can beat inflation or, try to beat inflation is to invest in something that has higher returns than 3.22%.
Yeah.
And historically, it has been the S&P 500.
Yeah.
Which has a...
Oh, you're picking my brain right now.
it has an annualized return of like 9.8%.
Yeah, depending on the time period, but a lot more than inflation for sure.
Right, so you can kind of triple what inflation does by just investing in the S&P.
Yeah, pretty much almost any investment you can make, as long as it's not a really low risk investment. Like even like if you buy US debt, like that's usually about the same rate as inflation too. So it's just good to know, like don't keep your money in cash. Like there's so many other ways you can use that better that are just as safe almost. So.
For sure, man. Yeah, man. So this is a short one this week about inflation, but thank you guys for tuning in. Jake, do you want to let the people know how they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can get in contact with you, talk to you? What's up?
Yeah, you guys can hit me up at Here's Me Jacob. That's my Instagram handle. You can find me there. So yeah, just send me a DM, comment on something, and I'll see it.
For sure, man. And you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, at WEInvested, and you can check us out online at WEInvestedonline.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Season 2.
Yeah, man.
Season 2, yes sir. Season 2, Episode 1. Let's do it.